Hey everybody, welcome back to Bleeding Cool's weekly recap of NBC's AP Bio, starring It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia's Glenn Howerton and sci-fi happy Patton Oswalt. My name is Ray Fluke, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool, and we are looking at tonight's Season 1, Episode 6, Freakin Enamored. Overall, good solid episode. Strong main storyline, secondary storyline good until the end, and I would say third it's a mini one but has the potential. And then we got some highlights from the episode too, but let's jump in right to the main storyline. We begin with Jack coming in, obviously devising his new plan to get back at his arch nemesis Miles, which I'll talk about in our highlights. And then he realizes, it's parent-teacher conference. So he goes through a bunch of things with the student parents, which again I'll talk about in highlights, and he ends up meeting later on Colin's mom, who is guest star Erinn Hayes, who I think we might be seeing more from this season. But they strike it off big time. Now, of course, what comes with that is the complication because, again, Colin is his student and, Colin is his mom and everything else. And we see when Jack comes over to have his date that Colin, whether he's planning it or not planning on it, is doing as much C blocking as possible. From playing the saxophone to talk about rashes on his tongue to Chinatown-like cutting of his nose and apparently sneezing and bleeding blood everywhere. So, yeah, things don't go particularly well. So, kind of like with the Marcus situation, Jack really now kind of has a war with Colin. We find out as the episode goes along, really essentially, neither Jack nor Colin really have good father situations, and in the process have really been using each other. Jack has essentially been using Colin and has made no bones about it to get closer to Colin's mom. We find out that Colin's been using Jack in the hopes that Colin's real dad will come over and see Jack over there working with Colin on this rocket project, which I'll talk about in a second, and get jealous, and it'll convince him to be a better dad. So even though they're both doing the same things, Jack still finds a way to be a little lower on the morality scale. Because at least Colin's doing it under, again, this misguided idea that he can kind of jumpstart his old dad to be a better dad. Jack's just doing it because he's, wants to get with Colin's mom. Now, granted, he says there's a lot more to it. We don't know. But as it goes along, there is that realization and that understanding, and we are left at the end of the episode with both of them having an understanding. And let's just say, and I'll talk about in the highlights, they go to the rocket competition as father and son quality, and let's say they have a very, very good and strong impact. So it was a very good resolution to it. I really liked it. It showed a lot about Jack's character. There's a really great part at the end when they take care of a little something, which I'll talk about in the highlights, and the way he just kind of reacts and tells Colin to run with him. It's just very sweet. It's very endearing. It could pay off as the semester rolls along. I'd like to see where this kind of moves and this develops. I hope this isn't just kind of a one-off thing and forgotten about. So that's our main storyline. Our secondary storyline has to do with Durbin and Mary. And during the parent-teacher day, Mary's taken a number of the parents around, and they're looking at some of the artwork that was done. And a couple of the parents have issue with some artwork that was done of a woman's bare back. And it turned out it was Mary who had posed in the class with a swimsuit and allowed the students to essentially sketch her. And, of course, they get all in a tizzy saying, oh, my God, this is obscene, this is nudity, blah, 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 blah. And in that moment, Durbin does not support Mary. He takes it down. And from there builds up, Mary really rallies the forces to be like, look, you're body shaming me, you're shaming art, why are you censoring all of these things? And, Durbin tries these half-hearted things, which again, I don't think are really in his character's nature. So again, I'd like to see a little more progress with Durbin. But the whole idea of putting a school t-shirt, representing on the thing, just kind of seemed a little weird. It progresses along. We see that even Mary's realizing it's getting out of hand once they start beating up a piñata of Durbin. But there's a really nice moment where she comes in and she's like, look, why didn't you support me? Why didn't you back me up? And he even owns it. He says, it's like, I don't know. I think in the past I would have. I don't know what happened. I gave in to them. She references, and I want to make sure I get this quote right, she calls him, going from a cool-ass king to a whack-ass clown. And it's very, very cool. Now, where it loses points, to be honest with you, is the ending. Because the ending seems to resolve it in a manner that you just want to say, like, well, Durbin's like, well, I'll just hold it in my office. And then he talks creepily about it, which was odd, and I think send a bad thing about him. And then Mary just decides to kind of take it and leave. And I don't know. I don't think it sent a right message. I think the better ending would have been you put it up in the glass case with the awards and just say, this represents us. So I thought there was a missed opportunity there from a message standpoint. And the third, which is a mini one, which again, I think builds more into the legacy of Michelle. Steph and Michelle, when they're part of the protest, Michelle is wearing this turtleneck and it's killing her, but she won't take it off and she will not tell Steph what is going on. And eventually she finds out that Michelle has this tattoo on her lower back that says M with a heart KJ. And Steph's like, well, what's the big deal? Those are your boyfriend's initials. And it turns out, no, those are initials for Kendall Jackson, a Chardonnay. Really feeding into this underlying subtext that Michelle has issues and problems when she drinks and gets out of control. But I think what was even more interesting was the fact that Steph gets around to the idea that her boyfriend hasn't seen her back. Which, again, raises so many questions that I thought they were going to go and thankfully didn't. We're just going to leave it there. Okay, so I'm going to say out of that episode, I would say probably 6.5. Good, solid episode, pleasant episode, nice palate cleanser, I would say. But again, I'd like to see a little more progress from the next episode. They've been hitting hard up to this point. I'd like to see around the 7.5 or higher would be much appreciated. Okay, highlights from the episode, a couple of things. The plan against Miles. Miles is dating Lisa Loeb. That's driving Jack crazy. Jack devises a plan to come up with something to make her think that Miles is cheating on her. They end up photoshopping a picture of Miles licking Alanis Morissette, which almost works. And it's interesting that Jack's not going to even realize how close the plan came to working. But in Miles' typical fashion, Miles turns the situation around, as we see at the very, very end of the episode. Parent-teacher day. Jack knows how to handle parent-teacher day. Does not matter. And as someone who's worked in higher ed, not granted high school, but still with understanding of parents, he was absolutely right. They want to hear their kid's getting an A. They want to hear that the kid's going to be getting into an Ivy League school. And this is the instance where him being able to say he's from Harvard really, really did buy him some major time. However, Marcus's mom still wants to have some one-on-one sessions, so we saw a medley of those. A couple of those were very interesting. I find it funny that Sarika's mom also finds Sarika too damn serious, and it was even complaining to Jack about what it's like having to go to all these academic events on a Saturday. Victor, 2 bad weeks in a row regarding his any kind of image or tough look he's going for. Because we realize now he rocks the same kind of Jerry curl, perm curl thing going on that his mom does. And we see that, if nothing else, it helps them to find each other when they're at, like, Lost to the Park or something like that. And again, the quote, we always look for the curl. I think that kind of says it all. But my favorite, of course, has to be my favorite in the entire class. It is Heather, Cold Stone Pimp Heather, who we find out with her parents, all she wants, now she's an independent woman, she wants a pressure cooker so she can make her own brisket. Come on. Give Heather her own pressure cooker so she can make her own brisket. Her parents don't think she's ready. But, we all think she does. Jack feels she does. And let me tell you, she is like Jack's biggest fan in that classroom. So, love that sequence. That was very awesome. We also learned that Mary has the back of a Gauguin model. Just wanted to say that. Just Gauguin. Sounds, I'm probably even saying it wrong. I don't care. It's just kind of cool to say. We find out $27 is actually a decent price for a fancy bottle of wine. It kind of meets that criteria. Apparently, also, you're a communist if you twirl your spaghetti on a spoon. I kind of would have to agree, but as somebody who gets annoyed having to twirl on a fork all the time, but yeah, I still would have to say, yeah, I kind of agree. Jack, just to know a little something about Jack. Jack doesn't mind dating single moms as long as they're C-section. As he puts it, they're all good. So, again, that was NBC and Jack. If there's going to be any nasty comments, I am just a messenger, a poor, poor messenger. Heather, again, Stone Cold Pimp. She's got the line of the night. She would have popped off on you, boss, directly to Jack in regards to Colin's mom. By the way, in case you're wondering, Colin's mom was there while she was saying it. Yeah. And last but certainly not least, and what was special to my heart, and if I wasn't being objective, I would have probably given the episode more points. You can't help but feel the Caddyshack vibe at the end when Jack is with Colin and the whole golf balls and everything, because essentially they can't build a rocket, so they're going to try and destroy the competition. Jack's plan, of course, is to hit a golf ball and kind of start a domino effect. Colin can't hit the golf ball, so Jack steps in and, of course, typical Jack fashion, doesn't hit the rocket, actually potentially seriously injures one of the kids that's there, possibly breaking his arm. In the seriousness of it all, Jack starts hysterically laughing, grabs Colin, and essentially runs out of there, which, again, when you take out of context somebody potentially got hurt, is actually a very, very sweet moment, and it makes you wonder where they're going to go with the storyline, but I really, really was liking it. I just thought that was a nice way for that storyline to end. So, as I said, all in all, if I was going to do this on a Cusack scale, which I'm going to do it on a Cusack scale, I would say between 6 and 6.5. Good, solid, decent. Let you have this one because I think you've been going good so far, AP Bio. But again, I want to see 7.5 or higher as we're chugging along. Once again, my name is Ray Flick, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. We have some very cool stuff coming up this weekend for The Walking Dead, and also as we get towards The Walking Dead season finale and the season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead on April 15th on the same night, we're going to have some cool stuff to announce about that too. So, but thank you guys for joining me. Hope you guys have a great evening and or Friday if you're looking at this in the morning, and I will see you guys on bleedingcool.com over the weekend. Take care.